Oh, hi Tim.
Hi, Lovisa. Good morning.
Welcome to this interview.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very honoured to be here.
And I'm calling it Ascension for Newbies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the background to why I'm doing it is, well, when I myself was waking up to the spiritual world less than a year ago, there was so much new vocabulary that I never heard of before. And I found it very confusing and a new way of seeing and experiencing reality, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a big, confusing it's a big, confusing subject for a lot of people because not only have you got your own process to deal with, but if we're sort of like children of the internet now. All you have to do is Google the word ascension, and you are absolutely bombarded.
Yeah.
Information. So it's what information is right for you, what feels right, what are you going to actually tune your energy into, what are you going to take on board, kind of thing. So you have to excuse the dog, like
Yeah.
anything can happen, it's a retrograde. But yeah, so I mean, my job's very specifically is to simplify the process, which is why I call what I do Tim Wild Practical Ascension.
Mm-hmm.
It is essentially to me, it is a fairly simple process. It's a very natural process. So, what we're going through is returning to a state that we actually are far more comfortable in. So hopefully I'll be able to shed a bit of light on that this morning.
Yeah, because I started Googling, that time it's even more confusing because there's so much differing information. Everyone's saying something different.
Absolutely.
And it would have meant a lot back then for me to have someone explain all those things in a simple and practical way. So yeah. I'm turning to you now for this. And the first word that was very confusing that I never heard of was ascension, the word ascension itself.
What is ascension?
Yeah, and I mean, I hadn't heard it in English. I mean, Swedish is my mother tongue, so that was a new word in English for me. And when I looked it up, it was just, Jesus
ascended across. Yeah, I mean,
okay, so what's this? Practically.
It can be used as either a biblical term or, the energetical term means to me, it's simply changing one state of vibration to another. Now, when the Bible refers to Jesus ascending, he did it the old-fashioned way. He turned his body from a physical shell into light. That's how ascension in the third dimension actually kind of occurred. Ascended, it basically meant you went up in a puff of smoke. But what we're doing on this planet is very, very unique. We've chosen as a large group of souls on Earth to ascend in a physical body, which is quite rare on a kind of overall galactic level to do that. Is for souls like ourselves to wish to stay in physical. But that's what we're doing on Earth. We're now holding a very much a fifth dimensional vibration, an ascended vibration, but we're retaining our physical bodies, which previously it's a difficult one to explain because on a normal level, on a normal ascension level, we would now kind of be thinking very seriously about occupying our light bodies. We would be losing our physical constraints, but it's all kind of moving on from the great Atlantean experiment where a lot of souls maintained a fifth dimensional frequency for a very long time, so in a physical body. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, because now you're mentioning Atlantis, and to many people, to me before, that was just a mythical place, but to you it's something very real.
It is very real. Atlantis itself is the entire it's the foundation of what we're doing here on Earth at the moment. The whole purpose for Atlantis and the Atlantean experiment, which lasted for 260,000 years, was to provide us a blueprint for the future on Earth. So what might have appeared to be kind of a random work of fiction, or why did Atlantis exist? Why did it exist for 260,000 years? Why did it people keep on actually persisting with it when it was rising and falling and a lot of things were going wrong? It was because we needed to establish a blueprint for the future on Earth in physical. So that's what the Atlanteans were doing. They were living at the highest level that they possibly could in a physical body, and doing it at this kind of the optimum or the peak of their spiritual abilities. And they literally, it's like building a house. What's the first thing you do when you build a house? You lay the foundations and you create a blueprint for the actual property that you're building. That's what they did. So, you know, what we're doing now is essentially, now we are ascending. Now we're going through this process. We're stepping into that higher blueprint. We've already done it. We already know what we're doing. You and I and the people who are out there listening to this interview, we all know what we are doing. You know, we haven't incarnated randomly here. We've all got jobs to do. We're all very skilled light workers, and we're all very good at what we do as well. And, you know, it's a little bit like we're just finding that pair of boots that we made for ourselves again after a very long period of time. It's like having a very well-made pair of boots that you made for yourself 10, 15, 20,000 years ago. You put them away in a locker room, and now you're going to get them out and you're going to put those boots on and they fit perfectly. Mm-hmm. That's where we are at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. I feel like I'm a piece of a puzzle, and I'm trying to click in, like fit in, when I'm getting there, not quite, but almost, kind of. So it's going to be interesting to see when I do what happens. But also, the first time that you and I talked was in June last year, 2017, and at the beginning of our Skype session that you held those then. You asked me how long I'd been awake.
That's right.
And I was like, what do you mean? I'm awake. I'm not sleeping in my bed right now. Or like, when did I get up this morning? And so you thought I was just not understanding English so well. But like what? So how would you explain that word in this context?
Again, it's a word that, you know, Ascension Newbies will be kind of bombarded with, is the concept of the awakened human. Being awake is the difference between conscious living and unconscious living. So when you become aware of the bigger picture, you become awake. You are awakened to your own potential. You're awakened to the bigger picture on this planet. You are awakened to your purpose here. Mm. And it also means that you are awakened to the fact that, you know, we have been living in a kind of what is only could be described as a veil of illusion for 10,000 years, where we've been convinced that we're limited. We've been convinced that, you know, by exterior powers or whatever you want to call them, that we are, you know, we're powerless, and we are kind of, you know, staggering around on this planet like kind of lost little children, not knowing what we're doing, when in actual fact the reality is completely the opposite. We're incredibly powerful, and it's almost like that a bubble is shattering now, and the people that are actually aware of the bubble shattering, the people that are now opening their minds to the concept that there is a much bigger picture on the planet, that is what you call awakened. It usually involves an event of some variety, you know, something which kind of is earth-shattering, life-changing, kind of. I remember the point at which I would regard myself as going from kind of unconscious into fully conscious very, very well, and there's always an event which kind of marks it. It's like you stick a flag at that point in your life, you know, on your timeline, and it will usually mean that something has occurred that will bring your attention to where you're supposed to be in the spiritual pathway. Absolutely anything, basically.
I'm trying to think when that was for me. I can't say like a specific.
No, sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Sometimes you'll just get a build up of occurring.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's conscious. There's a lot of us out there who've always been kind of spiritually awake to a certain degree. Like you've always had an awareness of spirit or angels, or had a kind of attraction to crystals or healing or something like that. It's actually very common. But for a lot of people that I've spoken to, something would have marked an event in their life where they went from unconscious to very conscious in a very short space of time.
Yeah.
Life-changing events, say, you know, like one situation in your life, the door closes, another one opens, but it's quite disruptive. And during that part of that process, things are revealed to you that you know, bring your attention to a much bigger picture. You know, we've all got different.
But so it doesn't have to be in one day, in one moment. It can be over like a period of time. So
people out there that are waking up in their kind of it's almost like a cocoon state now. It's the sort of like, oh, okay, you know, it's things are, because the energy is becoming so much higher on this planet now, because it is such a higher, finer vibration. We don't quite need that huge slap awake that a lot of us actually had.
Yeah.
Things are kind of melting and dissolving at a much kind of, you know, it's actually quite a peaceful process in some way. So it's things are very different now from the way they used to be in the third dimension. I mean, when I went through my life-changing event, which was in 2008, anybody who's been to my workshops will hear me telling the story about kind of wound up back at my mother's with my clothes in bin liners after sort of like, you know, it's just one of these events that just takes you from where you were and puts you where you're supposed to be going in a very short space of time. But I was spiritually aware and conscious before that, but something had to happen to open up the other doorways in my life. So there's varying different degrees of what we experience, really.
Myself, I was very frustrated with the feeling that I was not where I was supposed to be in life, not doing what I was supposed to do. And then I read that's very common as well. Start searching for like something.
Yeah, spiritual
bigger,
is it's on the rise, because you know, we are becoming less able to live in that state of illusion anymore. It's the higher the vibration on this planet is going, the more, you know, the more in tune with ourselves we are becoming. And for those of us who aren't awake yet, I mean, there's huge amounts of people on this planet who their fifth dimensional heart center is activated. That's happened to absolutely everybody on Earth now, but they're resisting that level of consciousness because it's so different from what they've been used to. And that's when waking up becomes tough.
But but everyone on Earth is going to wake up.
Oh yeah, well,
within soon.
At the end of the day, I mean, it has got to the point on Earth where it's either wake up. The only way to describe it is, if you've chosen to incarnate on Earth at this time, it's a prerequisite. It's going to be without saying that at some point you are going to be adding your piece of the puzzle to the ascension process. There's no getting away from the energy now. We've passed that point where it's possible to stay in a position of unenlightened sort of unconsciousness. You know, at some point it's going to be presented to you in kind of glorious technicolor that you know, we are on an awakened planet now. And it's as simple as that.
But so we've been in 3Ds, like the third dimension, basically, Earth, but now we're in the fourth dimension. Now Earth is in the fourth dimension, or
fourth dimension. I mean, to break this down into kind of like easy to understand language, Earth has been in what we call the third dimension for 10,000 years. In that third dimension, all of the humans on planet Earth lived at a very low frequency. They lived with 7 chakras. They lived in a state of kind of, you know, most of this planet lived in fear. They made kind of choices which were quite low frequency. And those of us on the spiritual pathway were really fighting for our spiritual connection. We used faith, we used religion, we used other concepts, kind of looking to the stars and kind of, you know, looking for that higher power to come and save us. And that's, it occurred because, you know, what we would either call source or God or the great creator or whatever, wished to see what human beings were like when they were completely disconnected from their own higher selves, their source love. So everything was shut down. We were shut down to 7 chakras at the fall of Atlantis, and we were kind of like put into this restricted unconscious form and left to kind of, you know, do our own evolving for 10,000 years. And of course, we all know what the last 10,000 years has been like on this planet. It's been very hard work. But, you know, we've done what we set out to do. We've learnt what we are when we are disconnected. And now that period is over, it's finished. Nowhere on Earth is sat in the 3rd dimension anymore. There's 3rd dimensional blueprints or pockets of thought where people are still maintaining that structure. But the energy is in 4D and it is rising every day. So when everybody meditates, when we're 10 groups, when we work on ourselves, when we raise our frequency, when we do simple acts of kindness, everything is adding to this higher frequency.
Yeah.
It's rising day by day on a very rapid level. Now, this finishes in 2032 at the very latest. And by 2032, the whole of the planet will be kind of shrouded in this 5th dimensional frequency and moving into what we're known as the Golden Age of Aquarius. So this might sound like a lot of very intensive information for the people that are being introduced to this concept, but it's best to kind of know where we are and where we're going right from the outset, rather than kind of be focusing on where we were. Does that make sense?
But so I'm thinking then when this happens in 2032 or maybe sooner, will everyone then be, like every person, be 5th dimensional, or will there still be some who are not?
The thing about living on Earth, there will always be a kind of a choice, because that's what Earth was. Earth was set up as a school, a very unique school where we had the choice. It's called polarity. It's you know, you are given the option of taking either road, light or dark. And from those choices you learn, from those choices you gain karma. This is why 3D was such an effective learning template for all of those who wanted to make a lot of spiritual progress very, very quickly. That blueprint, that mental state, that association with ego will always be within us once we've had an incarnation. This is what I was saying at the workshop in your vascular. Once you've existed on planet Earth, once you've had a physical life with an ego, you'll always have that knowledge, you'll always have that blueprint within you. Now, even
when you're not in a physical body anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you've added that to your knowledge, your pool of knowledge. So it'll always be something that's within your blueprint. That's the unique part about it. So we will have a 5th dimensional planet. We will have a very high frequency place to live that's still rising on a daily basis, not going to stop at 5D. We're going to carry on improving. We're going to carry on building. We're going to carry on raising the frequency. But what will be different about it is, due to the fine and very high structure of the energy, our point of focus or our attention won't go backwards so often. We'll be more kind of heart-based. We'll be focusing more on service and each other. How can we improve our lives? How can we love each other more? How can we add positive structures to this planet, rather than, you know, the old 3D way of thinking where it's all survival, it's all about me, you know.
And a lot about fear.
Yeah,
as well.
Moving from fear to love.
Mm-hmm.
In the very much, but it's going to be, you know, we've got to work at it. We've all got to work at it collectively. We've all got to put the groundwork in. It's not just going to be given to us on a plate. It's something we've got to kind of unravel and create for ourselves, which is what we're doing very effectively at the moment.
I was thinking about the chakras, because some people don't even know what a chakra is. Yeah. To me, that was also quite vague. You know, I've heard of it, but I haven't worked with my chakras really. So how would you just, what is a chakra if you just define it?
An energy point within your body. Okay, you're not just your body and you're not just your chakras. You've got you are sort of, apart from you and I who are talking to each other on a physical level here, there's much more going on with us than meets the actual physical eye. We're a physical body, we're a mental body. Your mental body controls all your thoughts and your perceptions, which kind of exists as a layer of the energy around you. You've got your emotional body, which also kind of, you know, it's almost like we're 4-layer beings. You know, you've got the physical, and then you've got the energy structures around you. Well, the chakras are essentially the 12 energy points that run down your, and that run from here, which is where the tips of my fingers are, where your stellar gateway is, all the way down to your earth star below the soles of your feet. And each of those chakra points controls basically how we project our physical reality into the biosphere of our existence. They are points of energy within ourselves that make up our physical, mental, emotional, and our spiritual existence. So each chakra correlates to an aspect of our lives. So your heart chakra obviously controls or correlates to the amount of love that you give and receive in your physical existence. Your throat controls what you speak and the vibration that comes from your mouth. Your third eye is your processing. It's your receptor point. It's how you project your reality out. It's like a cinema projector. You know, you sort of like from the third eye, you are creating your reality. The earth star chakra below the soles of your feet, that's how you control your physical vibration on a daily basis. I mean, each chakra has a very unique and very important role in your physical existence. Without them, you have no physical body. So, you know, just in case the people that are listening to this out there hear sort of funny things about kind of, you know, you could possibly live your life without your chakras, stay away from that. Basically, it's very, very important that you have your chakras. They're part of you. But, you know, they're known as either a chakra or a nexus, a point of energy within your body that allows you to exist in.
And they take in energy, they send out energy.
In energy, and they send out energy. But, you know, they control your reality.
Yeah.
We basically how we kind of correlate with the physical and spiritual world around us. So each one has a different role. Sort of the stellar gateway takes in all the light and kind of.
Because a lot of people will have heard of only 7 chakras.
Yeah.
But the 12, it's important with the 12 chakras.
Incredibly important. Like, you know, one thing that I'll say right from the outset here is that nobody on this planet has got 7 chakras anymore. It's, you know, this is information that we used to be kind of tentative with because it was a big change. Everybody's got so used to the 7 chakra concept, and a lot of people have based their healing structures around 7 chakras, like Reiki, the wonderful Reiki that has served this planet so well. That was founded with a 7 chakra structure. You know, Dr. Usui wrote or brought through the 7 symbols for the 7 chakras, but we've evolved, we've changed, we've moved on. You know, like we no longer have that 7 chakras anymore. We've got 12. You know, what was amazing about the 7 chakras, you can now add another 5 and an incredible amount of power, light and energy to it. And it's just the beginning. We're only just really kind of getting to know where we're, you know, what these extra chakras are doing, what they're bringing to us. And I've been working with mine since 2002. I've regarded myself as a 12 chakra expanded kind of being since 2002, which is quite a long time now. So, you know, we will all benefit from moving into this field of energy, moving into this consciousness, because the minute you start working with your 12 chakras, you're putting yourself in alignment with the higher energies that are on this planet. It's the easiest way to get through this ascension process.
Mm-hmm. And you have on YouTube an absolutely great 12 chakra activation.
Absolutely, yeah. I've got loads of information on my website, www.timwild.com. Diana Cooper and I have written 2 books, the Archangel Guide to Ascension and the Archangel Guide to Enlightenment and Mastery. Both of those books are using the kind of the 12 chakras as a core that we work out from. It's like literally one of the most important things that anybody could concentrate on at the moment. If you want to know what to do when you wake up in the morning, if you are a newbie to all of this, if you've just kind of woken up to the concept of spirituality, if you want to know what the fastest way and the most effective thing that you can do to really put yourself in the highest state of consciousness possible and make your life easier on this pathway, work with your 12 chakras. It is absolutely just it's the bread and butter of what you will do.
And those books are very good.
Expensive. Yeah, thank you. Oh, we've got a little.
Oh yeah, unstable internet connection.
Oh, my internet connection.
But so when the first book, The Archangel Guide to Ascension, 55 Steps to the Light. So that's the first one that I got. The first thing I did was your 12 chakra meditation, the one on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I, felt really good. So, and then I connected with you and we had a Skype session. You told me buy the book. And so I started working with the book and it was absolutely great. Like it was fantastic from the start. But then I moved through the book and there are like very new concepts that are hard to maybe accept even at the start. And so I got really frustrated. At some points I was like really angry with you. It's like, what are you getting me into here? But that's a normal process as well, right?
It is, yeah. I mean, on this pathway, when you wake up and you start bringing this higher energy in, the first thing you will start doing is clearing 10,000 years of density. Okay, it is perfectly normal to be feeling a heightened state of emotion. It is perfectly normal to go through an absolute range of different experiences. It's perfectly normal to need a couple of weeks in bed. It is perfectly normal to be the most important thing for anybody during this process is to learn to love themselves. Absolutely unconditionally accept yourself and your process. As long as you are treating others as you would like to be treated yourself, you can do no wrong. Do unto others as within, so without. But there's no way of sugaring the pill or kind of saying to people, oh, you're on the ascension path, everything's going to be nice and easy, because we have to work hard. Our physical process, our physical progress is down to our own personal dedication and the commitment that we put into it. And so, like there's a saying in England or Britain, there's no such thing as a free lunch, you know what I mean? You got to put the work in, you got to put the hours in, kind of thing. But you only need to dedicate a small period of time per day to your meditation. Just because you've just woken up doesn't mean you've got to spend 4 or 5 hours a day in meditation trying to find internal peace, because you just won't do it. The thing to do is to learn to kind of incorporate your spiritual knowledge or your interests and what you're doing into your everyday life. So just because you're spiritually awake all of a sudden doesn't mean that you leave your job or you leave your spouse or you ditch your house and go and live in the woods or anything like that. It's being realistic and grounded about your approach to this. Sort of like to actually kind of incorporate what you're doing on an energetical level into your physical life. And that's when the doorways start opening. If you're relaxed, if you're in flow, if you're working with the energy, then what you need is given to you. You don't need to fight for it. You don't need to scrabble for it in any way, shape or form. Things just rearrange themselves in the order that they should be. If they're not rearranging themselves in the order that they should be, if you're constantly being faced by obstacles and trials and things that just don't work out for you, then either you're chasing the wrong pathway or you're going through something which we all call in the trade a test or initiation, which is going to be absolutely, we all get them at the end of the day. And there's differences. You'll learn to discern the difference between a test and following the wrong energy. You'll know what's going on in your life, basically.
Sometimes when you're in the middle of it, though, it takes a while before you realize this is probably a test now.
That's when people tend to come into your life and show you the way. You'll be permanently surrounded by your angels, your guides, your dragons, your masters, your unicorns, your extraterrestrial friends, and also you have a lot of soul family around you. I mean, things are very different now today than they were when I went through my kind of huge process in 2008. In 2008, I actually thought I was on my own. Diana Cooper was my only spiritual friend at the time. And when I was given all of this information that, you're going to be helping with the planet, you're going to be helping with the ascension process and all the other stuff that I was given, I thought I was going to be on my own doing it. I thought, oh, you know, I was going to be kind of like, you know, one of the only people on the planet standing up. I had no idea that, you know, another 10 years down the line, that there would be millions and millions of other people who had woken up and would be working side by side with me and doing things, you know, like having interviews on a Thursday morning, talking about very, very high level frequency work and the future of this planet. Is where we are now, you know.
Kind of, but the strange thing though, when you're saying that so many people have woken up now, when I was waking up, I felt very alone. I like no, and still of my friends and family, it's just me, you know.
That's a very interesting subject to tap on to point on. Is one of the very common, very frequent things that occurs in this kind of start. You know, I'm not being condescending here. The kind of the weight of the start, the newbie part of the wake up process is when you raise your vibration very quickly, which happens automatically when you step onto the pathway when you wake up. Your energy fields become out of alignment with the lower frequencies that you were used to previously, which means that things can get a bit rowdy or a bit disruptive with people that have been in your life for a long time. People that are, you know, people that no longer serve you will eventually just kind of move away. And that can be at the point where we start feeling very lonely, because all of a sudden you're not surrounded by the safety net anymore. You haven't got your old friends, your old family, maybe, who are around you constantly supporting you. You're kind of left in this huge, it's like standing in a huge open field waiting to be struck by lightning. You don't know where you're going, what you're doing, sort of like who's going to be there to support you. And depending on how you cope with that, you know, you'll move out of that very, very quickly. If you know it's coming, for a start, knowing that it's coming is a big, big kind of step up in the right direction. So I'm just getting comfortable. If you don't know it's coming, then that's when the sort of like the panic and the loneliness and the sort of like, what the hell am I going to do starts coming in. And, you know, people around you can react, you know, quite strangely to your sudden change in behaviour, your sudden change in vibration. You got to look at it from their point of view. 1 minute you're there, and the next minute you're off on a unicorn somewhere, sort of. You know, these changes happen very, very quickly, and these energies don't sit well together. So, you know, the first thing to remember when you're looking after yourself is also be kind of aware that people around you might not understand you. But there is so many of your soul family out there waiting to connect with you. All you need to do is take that step from one room to another. You know, don't stand in the middle of the field waiting to get struck by lightning. Go and find a gate and hop over it, and go and find the people that you are supposed to be with.
Yeah, because then it will be easy to isolate yourself and not talk to anyone about it, really, because no one understands you. But and maybe just keep it quiet, but that's not gonna work.
No, eventually you're gonna have to. You can't keep quiet about it forever. I mean, I do know people that have been like living this dual existence, and it becomes very stressful for them. Yeah. They're constantly, you know, they're being one person at home and another person at work and another person at the workshop that they're attending on a Sunday, and it's like, you know, which head am I going to wear on that day? Eventually it will get to the stage where you don't care what people think and you'll just be who you are, kind of thing. It does take a little bit of processing in order to do that. You know, again, this is why I like the practical approach to it. You know, I use it. I'm no different now than I would be anywhere, say in a supermarket, or if I went to the pub on a Friday night. I don't change who I am or what I do, kind of thing. And you will find that easier and easier as you go along. You don't need to be kind of in that kind of hyper spiritual state all the time. It just becomes your reality. You know, being kind of spiritual isn't kind of like a platform that's higher than everybody else's. We are all one at the end of the day, regardless of what our level of consciousness is. And our job on this planet is to raise the vibration and the consciousness of everyone and everything around us. And we do that simply by shining our light, not by kind of the words that we speak or preach or whatever kind of thing. So just, you know, let your vibration be your guide. And if people around you are becoming kind of difficult to be around, then step out of that energy. I know sometimes it's difficult, but just make sure that you've got the space to nurture yourself that you need at the time. Okay.
So I was also thinking, you're talking about the angels and the masters and the unicorns and the dragons. And I mean, me before, I believed in God and that there are angels, but it was in a very vague way. I didn't think I could really interact with them or.
No.
But and then I start reading this book, and the angels, yeah, that's easy, you know. Yeah, I know there are angels. But then dragons and unicorns, and then we come to extraterrestrials. That's when you kind of got stuck there for a while. The dragons were easy. I love the dragons, but
you definitely.
But
dragons, haven't you? I mean, again, it's all completely down to personal point of perception. It's not my position to tell anybody what they believe in or what they should be connecting with. Let your feelings and your intuition be your guide. You know, something.
For example, when you say unicorn, people think of like a horse with a horn, like this real physical horse, and it's not really that.
No, that's a stereotypical picture that has been kind of painted by kind of, you know, dare I say it, sort of fantasy or fiction. But a unicorn, in actual fact, is a very, very high frequency. I mean, to look at a unicorn is like looking at kind of a star close up. They're incredibly bright. I don't see unicorns as etheric horses. I see them as almost like pinpricks of light that you need sunglasses for. They're incredibly powerful, and you know, the way I see them working with people, they're life changing. You know, allow to come to, you know, this is for the people listening. Allow the beings that are meant to be connecting with you to come to you. Trust your intuition, trust what you're given. At first it might be a little bit difficult to actually kind of take on board what you're being shown or what you're being given. Best thing to do is always trust the first thing that you're given. Once you engage your mind and start thinking about what you've seen, you've lost it. Okay, so the first thing that you've been given will be, you know, trust yourself at the end of the day. You know, your mind is your connection to the realm of spirit around you. You know, there's always going to be an aspect of your imagination involved in it, but you will know the difference between your imagination and actually something which is truly trying to connect with you. The two have got a different vibration. Just a case of, like, you know, you work your third eye. It's like going to the gym. You've got to work that muscle, sort of thing. So that makes sense.
But then you work a lot with crystals as well, so crystals can be helpful.
Yay!
Yeah, look, I got mine.
Yeah, crystals for me are just a way of life. They are my lifeline. They are what I use on a daily basis to hold, keep, and raise my vibration at the high level that it is. And they are also an excellent source of communication with the higher realms. They are souls in their own right. This crystal skull has its own consciousness. It brings in higher frequencies and energies. It has access to archives of information such as the Akash and the halls of Amenti, the Akashic records and the halls of Amenti that I wouldn't be able to delve into myself. You know, crystals are the future of our planet. Basically, we'll be using them for light, we'll be using them for heat, we'll be using them for transport, we'll be using them for computers in the future. But like the Atlanteans, we are using them for our own personal healing at the moment. We're using them to connect with spirit. We're using them to amplify our energies and our thoughts and our intentions. To cover what crystals are doing, what our connection to them is at the moment, is, you know, you'd need another half a day. Yeah. But, you know, if anybody wants to know any more about crystals, please kind of go to my website or my YouTube channel and have a look. So I've got a lot of information out there about them.
I think a lot of people just the skulls are a bit scary to a lot of people.
Yeah.
No, but the shape.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I was drawn to, because obviously of my connection with crystal skulls goes back to Atlantean times, but the Atlanteans chose the skull because it represents the knowledge of physical form, the wisdom of the human brain, the connection, the housing of the brain, and the form of the skull. Basically, it's knowledge. It represents knowledge in a physical form. It's you know, only people, you know, only the last 2,000 years have people started associating skulls as a symbol of death or evil or whatever, when in actual fact they're really not. So
because when you hear that explanation that you just gave, it's like, oh, of course, you know, it's of course.
yeah, it kind of makes
It's too
sense.
simple. But I like the ankhs, so that's what I connected to first for me. And with the heart, right? Oh my gosh. I've got one here too. I'm now almost breaking them against each other.
This morning as well. I've
Yeah.
one upstairs actually. Yeah, I mean, the ankh is the symbol for the fifth dimensional heart chakra that has been handed down since Atlantean times. The Egyptians loved it, but they also kind of misused the symbol. Like a lot of the symbols weren't misused in the third dimension, and they weren't used for the energy and the original intention that they were intended for. The ankh is literally the symbol of the activation of the fifth dimensional heart. So it's like a key, click, opens the heart. So yeah, you see a lot of that symbology around.
You know, I've always liked all stones and fossils and crystals, but I never really felt a vibration when I held it. I didn't know that was possible. Or but so when I realized that, it was really amazing. I was blown away. It's like, well, I can feel something. I can feel it. You know. So that's so try it, everyone, if you haven't.
Absolutely, just grab a crystal and connect with it. Especially important for the newcomers is crystal work is simple. Okay, there's a lot of people out there that I've worked with who've kind of taken crystals to be a lot more complicated than they are. Working with crystals is pure intuition. If you watch how a child works with a crystal or uses a crystal, they're not engaging their brain. They're just doing with that crystal. They'll put it on a part of their body. They'll put it on the dog. They'll make shapes with them or grids on the floor. They're not overthinking the situation. And it's exactly the same for us grown-ups.
Like my 2-year-old, he grabs them. He puts them in his mouth sometimes, and it's like, no, please spit it out. And he puts them all over the house.
But I mean, generally speaking, I mean, I've been picking up stones, crystals, and rocks since I was very, very young. I used to put them all in my pocket, and I used to collect, you know, different parts of where I went to, very much like you do as well. So I'd have collections and clusters of different places.
My parents were going crazy. Are you going to put all of that in the car? Really? It's going to be so heavy.
Duffel bag of crystals over your shoulders, sort of thing. That's exactly right. And so when you come across a crystal, you'll know which one's right for you because you'll be drawn to it. You know, don't think that because you've seen somebody with a crystal that crystal is right for you. You know, you go for what calls to you. You know, the second you look at something, you know whether it's for you or not, and you are drawn to it. So it doesn't matter what shape, size, color, or particular type of crystal it is. If you are drawn to it, then that crystal is right for you. Because
usually there will be things written, like in a store, a crystal shop.
That's right. Yeah.
Like, this is the property. These are the properties of this one, and
don't worry about the properties of them. Just go for what feels right for you. You know.
Yeah.
Let somebody tell you what that crystal does. It's what it means to you that's important. Everybody needs to simplify how they relate to crystals, because the conscious mind can be very it can be a huge obstacle with how we connect with them. It's very, crystals are intuitive, but just, you know, I've always got a crystal on me wherever I go, even if it's in my pocket or in my bag or under my pillow at night. You know, they really do amplify who you are and energy in a much higher and brighter space. But yeah, check out my YouTube videos and the articles on my website for a lot more comprehensive information, because it's a huge subject. So, yeah.
It's also, I think, for me, myself, I'm usually overthinking. I'm trying to analyze things so much. And so it was a very huge shift for me to...
Yeah. Oh, lost connection.
Yeah, what's happening with the internet connection?
Yeah, it's got another unstable interconnect.
Yeah, but you're back.
Yeah, I'm back now.
Yeah. So that's very, like, don't try to think these, like, think that I'm gonna really concentrate and think that I'm gonna get some. No, just feel it.
You relax with it. It's all about flow at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think we're starting to maybe run out of time.
Yeah, we're getting to it. We've been chatting for 40.
So I'm looking at my questions here, if there's something. Yeah, maybe one thing. What is the life mission?
Sorry?
A life mission, your life mission.
What you've incarnated here to do.
Yeah.
Now you'll have, you get up in the morning, you go to work, you come home, you kind of like cook the dinner, you look after the kids, and that's your current kind of, that's part of your life mission. But your life mission is what you've truly incarnated here to do as service to yourself, your soul group, the people around you, and your planet. Okay. Now, we're not here in kind of the same learning capacity that we were anymore. Our life's mission, this particular lifetime, is incredibly important because we're part of the ascension of this planet. Okay, so, what we're doing here is very high level now. So a life mission now is obviously very different to what a life mission would have been 5,000 years ago, or 2,000 years ago, or 100 years ago. It's this particular lifetime that you are here in at now it's huge, because it's a transition lifetime. We're going from kind of 3D to 5D in a space of 18 years, and launching a new golden age on this planet. And we're going to see a lot of changes in 18 years. We're going to see huge rearrangements of how people view and feel about each other, and the stuff that's wrong will be corrected gently and slowly, and in a way that everybody can cope with it and manage it. But we've got to work at it. We've got to put the effort in and the hours in, and hold our light high, and make sure that we're doing our jobs properly. And it's fun stuff.
Yeah, because without knowing it, that was what I was looking for, right? My life mission, when I felt that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. I was really, really frustrated. I had a lot of physical symptoms, feeling really, my body was hurting. So
it's
that's basically it.
I mean, another thing that it's worth noting is that once you're on this pathway, like, you will notice the physical side of it, the physical symptoms. Become very in tune with the moons. You become very in tune with, like, the huge kind of gateways of energy that we have, like the equinoxes and the solstices and the Lion's Gate. The Lion's Gate last August was enormous. It was like 3 weeks of the most intense energy that this planet has ever seen. And
I'd never heard of these things, but that was amazing. Yeah, like, well, Lionsgate, what's that? Because I'm very connected with the lions as well. So, yeah,
it's incredible, sort of. But again, don't get too caught up in these dates, because it can be very easy to kind of like, oh, there's a retrograde coming, I've got to hide for 3 weeks and everything. Embrace all of this energy that comes to you, but remember, it's just energy. At the end of the day, you control your reality. This doesn't control you. It doesn't change who you are. It doesn't mean that your life's going to be any different. It just means that there's going to be certain facets that you're working with at the time that can either be beneficial or can hinder you if you're resisting it. So just be aware of what's going on around you.
Yeah. So, and I also wanted to mention that we have a Facebook group called 55 Steps to the Light. It's a closed group, but everyone can find it still and see the members, and read what this text, what it's about. But everyone's welcome to join it, because we're talking about all these things and also working with yours and Diana's books.
Yeah.
So
well, it's wonderful you set that up, Lovisa. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great honor.
Thank you for helping me spread it.
It's
Yeah.
so.
And thank you so much for doing this interview.
My pleasure. And just before I go, I'll mention the Zoom events, because obviously, like, you know, when you and I connected with each other, I was doing the one-to-one Skype sessions. I don't do those anymore, unfortunately, due to my time constraints. But I now run Zoom events, which obviously we're recording this on Zoom, which are online workshops. And for anybody listening who wants to get involved in those, they're exceptionally powerful. It's essentially, it's an online workshop. I can be sat in my home in England, and a group of 100 to 300 people can be listening in online as a live participation. You know, if you want to get involved with that, check out my website, www.timwild.com, and also my Facebook page, Tim Wild Practical Ascension, is full of little nuggets and goodies.
And you have a crystal Facebook page.
Yeah, Tim Wild Crystals and Skulls, and that's so there's lots of information out there.
So yes, of course, I got my lovely crystals and everything from Tim. Yeah.
I love that. It's my favourite symbol, that is, and it's always an hank.
Yeah. Yeah, so thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Lovisa. It's been an absolute pleasure this morning, and I hope I've come across in a way that people can understand. Sometimes it can be quite difficult to kind of water the information down to the point where, you know, but I think everybody who's awake now understands what's going on around us to a certain degree. So yeah. And I'll see you again very, very soon. And love to all of you tuning in, and I'm sure I'll see you at some point in the future. Okay.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.